And so we come to part 3 of our dialogue, Ibrahim.
It's been great.
It's been really good, inspiring actually. I want to move and look to Westfield's Collect Plus. Now this is a very interesting example of a luxury click and collect experience. I mean, do you think this actually could have an application or a home in airports?
Yes, I do, but I'll take it further than that. I think airports and shopping centres and other assets must develop a whole ecosystem of fulfilment, from the very, very hyper convenient robotics, lockers, seamless kind of quick fulfillment, all the way through to a concierge-based experience. There's no reason why, if you buy something online, you arrive at an amazing space, an amazing lounge. There's no reason why that can't be the main place you reside in an airport, the main place you stay in an airport. Maybe that lounge is a collect lounge for your goods, but there's brands there that are showcased. It's hospitality. It's
that does
food.
exist in part already.
It does. No, absolutely it does, and not enough. You know, maybe we can go back to my previous point. Maybe that is partly a place you work as well, or you dwell. So definitely, for me, the fulfillment experience has got to be across the whole spectrum of missions, whether it's quick or whether it's loungy and concierge. So yeah, and I think that's delivered as I would say it should be delivered as an airport branded experience. It's part of the airport's kind of hospitality, and I think there is a dynamic that's playing out in airports that suggests that airports should be the brand that owns the customer or owns the passenger. Yes, airlines own the passenger from the beginning of the journey, from booking a ticket, but when the passenger arrives at the airport needs to be the core brand.
You talk in the book about buying brands and joining brands. What precisely is the distinction?
So buy brands have a transactional relationship with their customers. Join brands have a much deeper relationship and more emotionally connected. They play a much bigger part in their lives. They align with their values. Buy brands are in the minds of the customer. Join brands are in the lives of the customer. Buy brands have customers. Join brands have fans, have advocates, have members.
Can't airports be join brands?
Absolutely they can. Buy brands think about promotion before the transaction. Join brands think about communication, engagement after the transaction, what part they play. So I think, and there are many, many other criteria that I talk about both in presentations and in the book. How do you shift from a buy brand to a join brand, or a buy place to a join place? And definitely airports can increasingly create a much more emotional connection, be a part of people's lives and aligned to people's values. And an impediment to that is charging people £5 to drop off a relative. An impediment to that is charging people £2, £3 for a bottle of water. An impediment to that is charging people £3, £3.50, £4 for a coffee. This is not being a join brand, and
it's actually
customers are seeing through it, and I think we've got to break this cultural kind of cycle that we're getting into. And if you are serious about being a brand that's emotionally connected to your customers, you've got to behave as such. You can't just talk about it. And I'm not just referring to airports. I refer to many, many brands. And I think
you've talked about the airport example, but actually it's true. I'm with you in the sense that I also happen to believe that it's a money-grabbing exercise and it's needless.
I don't think it's universal. I think many airports are great at engaging with their customers and are loved by many customers. But there are those that are not, like in every industry, in every sector.
I guess we know who they are.
Yeah, but airports are not just like another brand. They are very important parts of people's lives, important parts of our community, our countries, our cities. They are emblematic of where we live and where we go, and therefore they have a big responsibility. And I think there's a massive opportunity for airports to be a very compelling brand, to own the customer, to own every touch point of that journey, and every touch point of a customer's journey, a passenger's journey, must be analysed in three components. What is the physical experience? What does it feel like? What does it look like? What does it smell like? What the ambience is? What is the offer? What is the communication? The digital experience, whether that's a mobile device or whether it's digital interfaces, how do those two really blend and align? And third and most important thing is, what is the human experience? Who, at a human level, at a person level, represents the brand? Who is the ambassador of the brand? Is it a security guy? Is it someone that pushes the elderly in wheelchairs? Is it a car park attendant? These are the people we see, by and large, representing airports. We don't see the human beings, the people that are representative, that are embodiment of the brand. And what we've got to do in an airport is that we've got to first define what that brand stands for, what it is, what its proposition is, what is its DNA, its essence, and how do we translate that into physical, digital, and the human experience, i.e., we call them rituals. How do we design rituals, not just service? What are the rituals? What is the car park ritual of an airport? What does that mean? Is it another barrier with another concrete column with another number on it, with lines on the floor? Is that what the welcome experience is, or welcome ritual? What is the ritual when you enter the threshold or the elevator? What is the ritual when you're going from landside to airside? Yes, I understand airports don't control all that, but these are a series of rituals, and we have got to not just design the physical environment or the digital. We've got to design those rituals to be on brand, to be an embodiment of what that brand's DNA is, brand as in airport. And it goes all the way through to the washrooms, to the gate rooms, to the bridges, everywhere. Every millisecond and every micromillimeter of that airport has got to reflect what the customer experience is and what their perception is of that brand. And that is true, that is branding. Branding isn't logos and colours and communications. And I think from our point of view, in our industry, designing spaces is no longer the only thing that you do. We can't, interior design isn't what we do now. Interior design is a byproduct of something much deeper. Understanding the brand, it's much more about anthropology, understanding the people, your audience, and making sure your brand aligns with their culture and with their requirements and their changing attitudes and their expectations. How you translate that is the byproduct, is interior design, is master planning, is communications, is branding. But it doesn't start with that. And I think that's how our industry is changing, and that's how our business is changing.
I think I once attended a presentation given by Angela Gittins, who was previously head of ACI, and she said that what defined an airport experience was the quality and cleanliness of the toilets. I think she's still right.
It is a big part of leaving a positive or negative impression, definitely, and it has a disproportionate impact, both negative and positive, as it does in a restaurant, as it does, we see how many shopping centres do we see where the toilets are around behind a back corridor. It should be, instead of it being in the cheapest kind of space that you can't earn rent from, it should be in the most expensive space, because it is the most important part of the experience in terms of the impact it has on the perception of the customer.
I'm going to say make a joke about a toilet lounge.
Ask my colleague, he spends his life taking pictures of toilets.
What a sad man. We talked in the previous program about subscription-based models. I mean, these are arguably a thing of the future for brands. I particularly liked the Whiskey Club example you cited in the book. And of course, there's the amusingly dubbed Who Gives a Crap? But is there actually more of a place for this, not Who Gives a Crap, for travel retailers?
I think so. I think so. For me, it's not about just a subscription, paying your monthly subscription and receiving the goods. That's just a fulfillment device. For me, if it's a subscription, it's about a relationship. It's about a constant communication, constant engagement, being part of a club, if you like. And very importantly, and this term is very important, being in the know, feeling special. And I think if we can develop a series of subscription models, like I said earlier on, the community space, whether it's co-working, whether it's, if you're a frequent traveller, of course, I think there's something in that. Again, I'd like to talk to airports who are experts in their business, whether that's feasible, where that could be, and what is the quantum? How many frequent travellers are there in an airport, and whether it's worth developing a subscription model. What related to that, what I find that could be quite interesting, and I know some airports are doing this, is how can you productize specific experiences? How can you create a product for a honeymooning couple? How the airport, and this is what I mean by a joined brand, how can the airport think about a honeymooning couple leaving their home and going to the honeymoon? What role does an airport play through that whole journey? Where can it intervene? Where can it kind of create?
They can stop all traffic, marry them on the runway,
whatever it is,
and get on the plane on the runway.
Whatever it is, how can an airport create this amazing, memorable experience for a honeymooning couple, for a retired couple, for a very special family event, whatever it is? What is the essence of that experience from home all the way through to the aircraft? I think there's something in that, and you could package that, you can create a product for that, which is part of the airport brand. And again, very important part of that ritual, we can create rituals which are branded the airport. A very important part of that journey is the human experience, and that's what I mean by airports being brands. I don't mean flashy logos and great websites. I mean really, really creating a branded ritual or a series of branded rituals. And what's very important about that is that if you create a ritual which truly embodies the DNA of your brand, there's a big barrier to entry. No one can copy that. You own that. No one can copy your DNA. And I think that gives true differentiation, true joint brand strategy.
Okay, let's just go back to retail for a second. In summary, you would say that retail is all now about moments of experience, moments of truth. Wasn't that always supposed to be the case?
No, really, because what's always been the case is that retail has been a channel of distribution. And what's interesting, going back to my recruitment, transaction, fulfillment, and the retention, retail places, whether they're airports, whether they're shopping centres, are less and less about channels of distribution. They're more about being media platforms. I'm being particularly provocative and I'm generalising. Of course, we're always going to distribute product. But again, the question is how much of the space is for distribution of product, a channel of distribution, and how much of it is about moments of experience.
So how would you then define the new retail hierarchy?
I would say that we need to really understand within the master plan strategy where the transactional pieces are, where they are on the journey, and where are the recruitment pieces and community pieces, and which brands represent them, which operators, and very importantly, how do they connect? And how do they connect with each other? And how do they connect with the non-retail pieces, whether it's wellness, whether it's co-working, whether it's culture? We've got to create a synergistic master plan that really creates these stepping stones through that journey that pinballs people around. But very importantly, and of course this is where airports are far more complicated than shopping centres, the priority is to distinguish and to ensure you do not disturb, as much as you can, the process journey. How do you align and how do you blend the process and the holding journey, and where do you do that? And that obviously, of course, is a very specialist area of master planning, and it's a constant challenge.
Moving on, within the current mix of airports now, and especially in the major hubs, it could be argued that there are simply too many choices to be had, that less is actually more. I mean, would you agree with this?
From a retail perspective, you mean?
Yes.
Yes, I do agree with that sentiment. And that is, it comes back to understanding how people are changing. They're changing attitudes. As I said, we're leading increasingly complex, busy lives. Airports are places that people are either unfamiliar and therefore stressed, or adrenaline driven and excited. So they have a lot of other psychological, physiological shifts going on in themselves that are not present in a shopping centre. And I think, there's a choice paradox. Too much choice kills choice. There's a famous piece of research that was done in a supermarket in the jam category, and there were 36 lines of jam, assortment, different types of choice, if you like. And in that category during this research, 3% of people who passed that category purchased. They reduced the lines of jam to 6. And of the people that passed that category, 30% purchased. Too much choice kills choice. And we've got to help people to choose, not give them too much choice, and we've got to edit and create the stories around that. So I do really believe that reducing the choice but making a compelling offer is a very interesting way of looking at this. And meter after meter of bottles of vodka with light boxes above them is not the way forward. I understand the replenishment issues, I understand the operational issues. Of course, again, I'd love to have conversations with airports about the pragmatics of operations. I get that. But
I'm surprised you haven't.
We have often. But there's also a price to be paid in terms of perception in the customer's mind, what that represents. If you're masquerading as a luxury offer and you've got what I call light box retailing, meter after meter of shelves, and the customer takes a bottle of whiskey which is 60, 70 euros and has to queue up on a conveyor belt, that is not a luxury experience. I understand the operational parameters why you've got to do that, but that is an impediment to being luxury. And we've got to solve that problem. And I don't know exactly how to solve that problem, but I think we should have a good go at it.
Okay. In the book, you talk about the being economy. And what do you actually mean by this? And can you give us some relevant examples as genuine expressions of this?
Yeah, this comes from this idea that, again, back to the buy brand, join brand, back to the idea that we've got, too much going on, too many shops, too much choice, too many notifications, too much communication. And it was really a reference to places, how as architects, as designers, maybe this is not so relevant to airports, but as architects, as designers, we tend to want to predetermine what a place is for. This is where you eat, this is where you drink, this is where you play, this is where you work, you know. And there's a growth of, or increasingly we're finding places, public places, people responding to places that are just there to be. A great example of that is Highline in New York. Now, Highline has no coffee shops, no restaurants, nothing. It's just an amazingly beautiful place that people just hang out in to be what they want to be, do what they want to do. In other words, appropriate a place. The relevance this has to airports, I think, is the public spaces. You know, if we create these great dwell zones, people will appropriate them, do what they feel they want to do at that time, whether they want to work, whether they want to shop, whether they want to eat or drink. Create places just to be. And I think over-commercialization sometimes saturates a place. And we've got to have a change of pace. Sometimes it's high pace, lots going on. Sometimes it's low, little going on. And I think that lesson from urbanism, that we do a lot of urban regeneration, some of those lessons and learnings can be brought into airports, particularly the big ones.
And then, of course, there's the fourth place that you refer to, a new notion, as it were, for the physical store. I mean, for you, though, as you've discussed earlier, the fourth place is effectively a media platform. Does it have a space in travel retail?
Yeah, I think it does. It definitely does has a relevance. It comes from Oldenburg's, the sociologist, term of third place, this place between home and work, this place we meet friends, we eat, we drink, we shop. And Howard Schwartz kind of based the whole kind of strategy of Starbucks around this idea of third place. I was thinking, in fact, it was before writing the book, but I brought it up in the book, about what could fourth place be? What is this place that is going to be, that I sometimes refer to it as the living rooms of our public realm, this place to hang out. And it's no longer just a shop that transacts, it's partly transactional, but it's a place to dwell, to eat, to drink, to work, as I say.
Like Highline?
Like Highline. Well, Highline's more like a kind of a place to be, which has got nothing. I mean, this is much more active, but it's not about one thing. It's not about one thing. It's not just a coffee shop. It's not just a workplace. It brings all these things together. Sometimes this can be either a shop, but it can be a whole place. It can be a whole IDL. And sometimes I refer to it in the book. We use an acronym to describe fourth place, or to describe a real kind of compelling place. And the acronym is SWELCH, SWELCH, which is where shopping, working, entertainment.
Sounds like sitting on a balloon.
I don't think you said that. Shopping, working, entertainment, learning, culture, hospitality, and health. And how do these elements play out at different scales to create a place where people feel that they belong and has a true authenticity? And I think this is being played out more and more, or initially, through private members clubs. You can see, Soho House being a famous example, and others now. And that's permeating now through, look at Starbucks Roastery, look at Showfields in New York. We're seeing that more and more. And maybe that's the new notion of a department store. We're working on 3 department stores, one in the Middle East, one in Europe, and one in Canada. And we're basing the reinvention, the redefinition of a department store on this idea of Swelch and this idea of fourth place, because department stores are having existential issues. And I think some of these issues relate to an IDL, relate to the commercial offer of airports, i.e. they can no longer be a distribution channel for brands. Being a distribution channel for brands is not enough, particularly when brands are increasingly going D2C, direct to consumer. So as a department store, as a multi-category offer, you've got to host the brand. You've got to tell the brand story. You've got to be an advocate. You've got to be the ambassador of a brand. It's not enough to have the brand on shelves with a logo. That's not enough any longer. That's why department stores are failing around the world. and it's time, and many are beginning to reinvent themselves, and we're deeply involved in some of them.
So effectively what it all boils down to is that places are becoming serendipity machines.
The term I use in the book. I should have trademarked that, Peter.
Answer the question.
Are they becoming? Some are. I don't know if you've been to Showfields in New York.
I went to one in Miami.
I got one in Miami
Yeah,
now,
they
right? I
have.
didn't
Yes,
realise
they
that.
have.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, amazing. That is, that's the holy grail. Serendipity, happy coincidences. How do you design a happy coincidence? It's an oxymoron. You can't design a coincidence, but that's our challenge. How do we turn these spaces, these offers, into a machine that constantly drives serendipity? Serendipity is the most powerful consumer emotion, and most importantly, it's not price sensitive. It's an understanding, or it's a feeling that you've had a serendipitous experience, a happy coincidence. You never planned it, you never expected it, it was a wonderful surprise. And therefore, the future retail experience, let's call it, the future place, the future ideal, must be a serendipity machine. How do we create happy coincidences? How do we design happy coincidences? It's an oxymoron. You can't design a coincidence, but that's our challenge. As I say, serendipity is a strong emotion, and very importantly, it's not price sensitive. It's the most amazing experience you can have if you feel you've gone to an airport and you've had a coincidence that you'd never imagined. And therefore, in order to develop a serendipity machine in an airport, in a shopping centre, we must create an experience, create an offer, create a mix, a blend of experiences that deliver this serendipity and that speaks like a magazine, that changes like a gallery, that sells like a shop still, that shares like an app, that builds loyalty like a club, that plays like a game through gamification, that experiments like a laboratory, that connects like a community, and entertains like a show. That, I believe, is the future, and that, I believe, is how we can engage with our customers again, and that is how we can get engagement up, conversion up, revenue up, and make airports the most compelling place for any brand to be.